bull in field. So I thought, Miguel, what I wanted to do, and the reason I want to do this thing is because, creativity is such a precious thing in life. And, sometimes in business, hard for people to believe in it, right? It's just too difficult. It's a thing that's kind of too risky. It's too risky, exactly. And, in my career, you have been singly the most influential when it comes to, I've watched the transformation of cultures under your leadership, your cajoling and actually your belief, right? Starting with ABI and starting with, and then moving on to Kraft Heinz. And even more importantly, just your effect that you have on people. Um, and, to the two viewers of this, I think that what amazes me most about your legacy isn't the success of the businesses that you've been involved in, although obviously that's been exceptional, and not even the fact that when you set your mind to transforming the cultures of those businesses, what you did and the outcomes of that, not just from a business point of view, but also how the creativity fueled it, but the people. Everywhere I go with AB InBev around the world or with Kraft Heinz, they say that people say the same thing to me. They go, God, we miss Miguel. So I guess my start by saying, what is your approach towards creativity? How do you try and transform cultures? Do you have anything inside you? Is it just your pure instincts? What is it that drives you?
I mean, I just don't believe a company can evolve without being creative. Creativity is thinking differently and meaningfully. You can be creative for the sake of being creative, or you can be creative with meaning, right? And with results. And that's the only one we look for. It can be very transformative for a company. I just don't think it's possible for a consumer goods company, and not only consumer goods, not to be creative. It's impossible to succeed in the long term. And so it's imperative in a consumer goods company, especially in consumer goods,
Yeah.
but business in general, to be creative. And I think that if you are not, there's a big problem. You have a big problem. And when I'm talking about creativity, I go beyond just communication or even marketing. I mean, which are the most obvious places you have to be creative. I mean, if your communication is not creative, nobody pays attention on it.
Yeah.
If your innovation is not creative, you know, someone will, and you are going to be in trouble in the future. But I think creativity should be a core value of companies across the board. I mean, I always joke that I have only three areas I don't want creativity in a company, and they are quality, safety, and accounting. Rather than that,
Yeah.
now it's easy to say, it's hard to do it.
Sure.
Because Matthew, is much safer not to be creative.
Yeah.
Because creativity is definition being doing things differently
Yeah.
means risk as well. So it's much easier to be risk averse. Right? Much easier in any area of the company. I mean, why I'm going to do this? I'm going to be rewarded for being creative, or there's much more risk than reward.
Yeah.
There's more risk than reward. Why are we going to do it?
Yeah.
So you really need to instill this in the company and look for that, stimulate creativity and reward creativity.
Yeah.
Stimulate and reward. And use these examples of creativity that you're going to have in the company as like saviors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I've tried from day one, and was, is still the creativity in the minds, in the hearts,
Yeah.
and in the priorities of companies where I worked with and where I led.
So, I mean, that's perfect. I mean, where does this come from? So when you started in your business career, okay, how did you start? And then where did all of this creative spirit come from and belief come from?
So it's funny that you are asking this question because I never told you that story, I guess. But a couple of months ago, I was invited for a lunch in the house of a friend, and he invited a guy that was his friend, and he said, "You need to know my friend. He's Brazilian, and you need to know him because I think you guys have a lot in common." So I go to his house, and was my first boss, the guy that hired me the first time, and he told me a story I had totally forgotten about the day that there were like 30 candidates.
Yeah.
Um, and they would pick 10 out of the 30. And he asked me, "Do you remember that day?" I said, "Vaguely." I mean, we're talking about a long time ago. And he said, "Do you?"
You said that to him.
Yes, I said vaguely. I mean, like, he said, and he said, "I remember perfectly
Oh wow.
what you presented and why we picked you." I said, "Tell me how it was." So, well, we asked everyone to do a presentation about themselves. Um, and this time we had a, do you remember those, I forgot the name, projectors?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's
AV
kind
projectors. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we would ride with, and they could be projected. Yeah. God. So everybody would go and say, "Well, my name is Luisa, and I'm 19 years old, and I love my dog, and at university, I'm passionate about marketing." Basically, everybody the same.
Yeah.
Everybody was coming from the same place, the same college, the same backgrounds. And I went there with a paper,
Yeah.
folded paper. I opened the paper and was a castle in 3D that I just tattooed the center. I built it. And what I told them was like, I'm Portuguese, and what makes me different is the fact that I have a very different background from all of you here. And I told them that the symbol of this castle is in the flag of Portugal. There are 6 castles, which is what made Portugal. And this is what makes me different because I had to come from a country. We had to start everything again. My parents arrived in Brazil with nothing in their pockets after the revolution in 74.
Wow, really? So they were in the revolution in 74.
Yeah, a communist revolution in 74 in Portugal as he immigrated to Brazil. I said that made me very different because I had different from everyone here that was born, rich or in a very good life.
Yeah.
I, we had to start from zero, and that gives me very thick skin. And
Right.
and he said, "You were by far the most creative person along with the castle, etc. Totally different from everyone else.
Yeah.
You made your point." And we were like, "Oh my God." So I think that creativity, I always loved that. And I always thought that we have to be creative on everything, including on our own personalities. I mean, to stand out from the crowd,
Able to be interesting, right?
you have to be interesting,
Yeah.
right? And we have to approach and to tell ideas and stories and convince people in a creative way.
It is because obviously is that saying necessity is the mother of all creativity. And if you think about where you came from, you had to create stuff, right? You had to recreate your life. Your parents had to recreate their life.
Yes.
And in essence, what you've done actually going to business is you've almost recreated and two businesses, or certainly been a significant part in recreating both those businesses. So a little bit about your journey, if I remember. Okay, you started with Ambev, right? You were at Johnson and Johnson, and Coca-Cola, Philip Morris, all the universities of marketing.
Yeah. And then I went to Brahma, that became that became a BIMBEV,
Okay,
and then Kraft.
and you were one of the earliest people that actually started the coming together of all the businesses, right? When you went out and bought businesses.
Yeah.
So, what was that? What was that like? What was the ambition like in the beginning? How did you like? Did you have this huge dream about what you wanted to do with the business, or did you just go day by day?
Um, I think a combination of both. So I remember the first interview I made when was Brahma was just a brewery in Brazil, and I made interview was with Marcel Telles, and
So Marcel's the 3G, one of the 3G partners. Yeah,
yeah, not 3G
that's
more.
that's
That
for my
was, but
okay.
and he asked me, "What are your dreams?" I didn't understand the question. Actually,
Wow.
I thought, "What does he want to know?" My Nazis wins? What do you mean by dream? And then he said, well, let me tell you my dream. And we were, I swear, we were a brewery in Brazil.
Yeah.
That's it. A brewer in Brazil. And he said, my dream, he said, if you look at the beer business in the world, it's one of the only beer business that is not globalized, and it will be. Someone will put companies together and will make a global, big multinational company to do it. And he said, I think we have a shot. I mean, we are the underdogs,
Wow.
but I think that we can do that. And he said, my dream is 20 years from now, acquiring Anheuser-Busch, and becoming the biggest brewer in the world. Yeah. And I left that meeting that day thinking, and I remember telling this to my wife, this guy is either a lunatic or he's a visionary genius. And I told my wife, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to define if I think he's a lunatic or visionary. Thanks God I decided that he was a visionary. He was. So we all had this dream. Our dream was very concrete, was to conquer the world. I mean, I worked in Sao Paulo, in Brazil. I worked in Belgium. I worked in Canada. I worked in China. I led the business in Asia for 5 years. Uh, I worked in New York. And because we were conquering the world.
Yeah.
Right? And this was very clear dream ahead of us. And we were fighting for that dream, a big alignment among everyone to become the biggest brewer in the world.
Right.
Until we became.
Yeah. And then what do you do? So, but I think the great thing about this, and I say this a lot because, as you know, I'm a South African, and it's always nice to. It's not necessarily a chip on your shoulder, but you kind of want to prove that you're bigger than just the local people, and it goes to ambition, right?
Yes.
And you've always had huge ambitions.
Yes.
Now, why then? No, not so you've achieved your ambition, right? You've taken AB to the world's number one beer company, brewer, right? You've got all that. You've achieved it all. Why did you go to Kraft Heinz?
So ambition. Let me just talk a little bit about ambition, because I think this is sometimes I feel people embarrassed about being ambitious. They connect the word ambition with bad doing or something like you are greedy.
Yeah, right.
Ambition is what moves humanity, is to do better. Ambition can be on anything. To have a business that is very profitable, to do your PhD, to be an incredible doctor. People without ambition go nowhere. Now, I always say that the best people, the best leaders I met in my life had a rare combination of ambition and humbleness.
Yeah.
And this is kind of weird combination, because normally people that are very ambitious, they are not humble. There's a very good example in America right now about that. Yeah. And people that are very humble, they are not too ambitious.
That's right.
But when you have this crazy combination of humbleness, of ambition to conquer the world, but humbleness to keep your feet on the ground and know every day that actually you know nothing and you have to learn every day.
That's it.
And you have to conquer your place every day or get better. That rare combination, I think, is very, 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 very powerful. And I always looked for that profile of people.
Oh, that's right.
People with ambition, but simple, humble, curious people.
Yeah.
And it's not very easy to find.
No, it's just on that. What's great about you, so right. What you pick people really well, and because what ambition with humility is it gives you the ambition, the ability to learn.
Yes.
And to want to learn all the time. No matter who you are, you're going, I want to learn, I want to learn.
And the problem is that the more you grow in a company, the more the brown noses convince you that actually you are genius in blood, and the more you believe you don't have to learn.
That's it. Yeah.
And so there's this force. You go and you are powerful, you make more money than the other people, you have a bigger house. You start thinking that you are better than the people that work for you.
Yeah.
And you are not.
No, that's great.
You have to earn it every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, that's great. So, okay, so with all that being said, you walked away from AB InBev.
Why?
There was gnashing of teeth. People were crying. Why?
Oh, because I thought that I had done my job at AB InBev. I mean, like I had been for 21 years with Anheuser-Busch InBev.
Yeah.
I was zone president of 2 different zones.
Yeah.
Then I was the CMO for a long time.
Yeah.
And naturally, at a certain moment, you start believing that you have to leave so the other people that can grow.
Right.
And naturally, you start looking at your team and say, this guy's going to be better than me. Maybe he's not today, but he's going to be better or she's going to be better than me.
Right.
And so I have to open the place for them. And so I said, time to do other things. I didn't have anything in mind. I didn't leave Anheuser-Busch InBev to go to Kraft Heinz.
No.
I left because I thought that I had done my job with draft at AB InBev. And then a couple of months later, I was invited to be the CEO of Kraft Heinz. And I didn't blink. I said, I would love to do that. And the reason, very simple, because the company needed deep change and transformation. And I love that. I mean, I think that goes back to the point about creativity. I mean, creativity is a tough spot. A tough spot. Looking for creativity is looking for the different, and transformation is looking. You have to do it, and you have to transform. You have to change. You have to improve. So that is the field that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
I would suffer to go to a company that was stable and where things were already done, and yeah, I would suffer in that environment.
You said to me once when you told me you were doing it. In fact, you never told me the company. You said to me, I can't tell you yet, but I'm going to this company. And I think I've got a 3% chance of succeeding. Eh?
Yes, and this I think
And you like that in a way.
I loved it, and I think that is the part of the humbleness as well. I mean, like if you believe, if you're absolutely sure you're gonna do it, you are not humble. I mean, like it's just ambition. And I think that's when you freak out in the sense like, oh my god, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's like that you create that sense of urgency and importance. Yeah, that moves you, right? If it's easy, you don't go that far. You don't go, so the look for those risks you have to take. You are not going to make them. And so, yeah, it's the way to progress, I think, is believing that eventually it will not work. Okay, same when I was in China. I mean, when I went to China, my boss, Brito, at the time, they said, are you sure? Because, yeah, 4 zone presidents before you failed in the last 5 years. So if you accept is a big responsibility, I said, that's why I want it.
Yeah.
That's what, actually, I think that China was the biggest challenge in my professional life. That's right. Because of the culture that I didn't know I had to learn.
I'm hoping that Amarim, our new manager at Manchester United, has that same attitude. I mean, you think about it, all the failures, past failures of other people and companies can be a scary thing or can be a motivating thing, and you choose to make it a motivating thing.
Yeah. Well, me too. I'm a NU fan because of my daughter that is a Manchester United.
She titled to the young lady.
Yeah, and I got a story about related to that. I mean, these times right now are tough times for industries that are very affected by inflation. Not the tech companies, but like food companies are in a tough moment, tough spot because of inflation. And so I was watching TV and I saw Benfica, my team from Portugal, beating Atletico Madrid 4-0. And I mean, this is like a B team playing against an A team.
Yeah.
And the B team beat them 4-0. What impressed me most was that even after 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, they continued like hammering them, attacking, which is not common. So I was like, oh my God. I was in Portugal. I was like incredible, so happy. And then come the interviews with the coaches. First, the Benfica one, I mean, it was all high-fiving, And then came the one from Atletico Madrid. And I said automatically, he's going to blame the VAR, the VAR,
Yeah.
right? The technology. He's going to blame the field. That's what the game was in Portugal. So he's going to say, oh, his field was horrible. He's going to blame everyone. Do you know what he did? He did the opposite. He said, Benfica played much better than us. They had the best game of their lives. We had the worst of our lives. But this was the first defeat we had in the season. So don't take this as the trend. And so then the journalist asked him, what are you going to do when you go back home? He said, I'm going to put the players in a room. We are going to analyze our mistakes. We are going to learn from them. And we are going to be much better because we have a great team that has been playing extremely well.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I tell these examples of people that are feeling down. And instead of blaming the others, instead of feeling down, learn from the mistakes, learn from the failure, become a better professional.
Yeah. And I love that. And it's because what you say about business at the moment, for a lot of businesses, and I guess it's a reflection on life, and I think this is what you've been really great at. When they're tough times, that's when you really see the character of people and the culture of a company.
Yeah.
And to me, that when I've been part of or witnessed tough times at ABINVEV and at Kraft Heinz, what I've loved about how you've led is you've led with positivity, but honesty.
Yes.
So you're not saying everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay if we do this.
Yes.
Where does all that stuff come from? Where does that is that just in you?
I think it's personality, but also learning from the others, watching other leaders, how they did it in the past and learning from them. But it's exactly that. Actually, I think I grow in moments of crisis. Why? Because the leader is more important at those moments. I mean, leading people is making them believe they can do things, is empowering them, is stimulating them to do it. And so CEO can never be depressed, because if he's depressed and shows that he's depressed, the entire company will be depressed because everybody's looking at the leader. So in moments of crisis and difficulty, this is the moment that real leaders, not only the CEO, but the leaders, has to grow and find ways and inspire people and make them believe they can do it and empower them to do it. And that is not about saying you are great, hey, fantastic. Um, Actually, I'm pretty blunt, and
You are.
yeah, pretty transparent. But
I mean, that's a good thing for everyone to understand about you, because you are greatly loved by people. But there's not a person that I know that won't turn around and say to me, he can be vicious. He can actually really take your head off. And then what he does is he goes and picks it up and puts it back on for you.
yeah, yeah, it's true in a way. I mean, like, I I I don't think we should sugarcoat the pill. I mean, we should be very candid.
Yeah.
People know that when I say this is incredible,
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
that I mean it.
Yeah.
But when I say this is very bad and I think you can do much better, go and do it again.
Yeah.
And this is my perspective. And I give them a hint, not only say it's bad, but why it's bad,
Yeah.
and what are the possibilities here. So I inspire, trying to inspire people, provoke and inspire. They know I'm in it. So I don't know. That's how I am, and that's how I saw leaders that I admire doing, and I learn from them.
I think the other thing that you do, which I think is really good, is you take joy in the little things. And actually sometimes, and what that does is, if someone walks in and they may be a very junior person and they've done something simple that isn't really going to transform the business, but they've done something, they're proud of it. What I've witnessed and I hear is you make them understand how important that little thing is.
And you know why? And I try to do that in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, to give negative feedback, you just give 101. But to give positive feedback, you have to give in front of everyone.
That's a good lesson.
Because then you are inspiring everyone else. You are explaining why that example is so good. So I repeat the good examples 1,000 times People sometimes, oh, here comes Miguel again, talking about the game of Benfica, Vintetetic, quite great. Or the example of that factory where they proved, with a creative solution. Because I use these examples, I believe. I mean, I heard a boss once that I admire immensely that said, Miguel, if people go to mass every Sunday and they repeat the same songs, the same things, the same thing, why shouldn't we repeat the examples? We argue ones that hear the preacher that gets tired with our own examples. They don't. They don't. And so when you have good examples, like good, small or big,
Yeah.
recognize them and talk about that in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you are making two things. You are making stories that always memorable,
Yeah.
right? Instead of theory.
Yeah.
Stories are memorable and they are very inspiring.
That's right.
Being a big or a small thing.
Yeah.
And when you do that in front of the crowd, a person that deserves, you are also making this person believe more on himself or herself. So there are a lot of effects. So yes, I do that all the time.
I mean, there's something quite scary about honesty. Actually, this is the truth for a lot of people. I think what you do really well. I can remember presenting work to you. I always knew that you would tell me the truth about the work. Okay, and the reality about getting better is you need to know the truth where you are at the moment. But I always loved the fact that it was done with passion.
Yeah.
That you loved the idea that, oh, you're the CEO or the global CMO. You've got way more important things, and I want to show you this really cool outdoor campaign that we've got. And yet I felt that it was important to you, and that I would know exactly where I stood when I walked away.
Yes. And that's why I think that, yes, I give a lot of negative feedbacks as well, but never just like, I think this is awful and leave the room.
Oh, I think there was once. No, that was my cooking, actually.
Well, first, I don't say it's awful in front of the group. I would say I don't think this is good enough. But then trying to find the reasons together. Why is not? What are other examples that we see that are great examples? What can we learn from now? Trying to inspire people that are in a situation that is not good to get out of that situation motivated to do better. And I think that is great.
That's great. So now, in all your career, because I don't want this to be a 5-hour long video, what's been the achievement that's, and because I know you're a proud person, but you're not an arrogant person. You're not a boastful person. What's been a couple of things that have meant the most to you as a human being and as a professional in the last, well, since your career began?
Oh, there were many, many moments. Maybe the one that I learned most from and made me a much better professional was my 5 years in China. Um, I think I wouldn't have been a good CEO if I had not been in China. Talking about humbleness, man, you have to be humble because you have to learn everything again. And I give an example. My first year in China was very hard. I was always fighting with the Chinese, and they were fighting with me, or not fighting, say that they would do what I was asking them to do, and they would, do something else. I was very frustrating for me. I was like, I don't understand these people. I thought they were the problem. I was a problem. And there were moments that I understood that was the problem. I mean, I remember I said, maybe I have to talk to other presidents of multinationals to see, to learn from them. And so I got into a group of multinational presidents. And in this group, there were two groups. The group that hated China
Mm.
was only complaining about the Chinese, the way that they act, and and the group that loved China.
Mm.
Now, there was a perfect correlation of these two groups with success and failure. What was the correlation with the ones that loved China? Success.
Mm.
And all the ones that hated were failure.
Mm. Mm.
And I let that rule say, I better love China.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to fail. And that simple thing changed me because I concluded that I was the one that had to adapt to China. and not the Chinese to me.
Yeah.
Not because I was the president that they had to do it my way. I had to understand the way they were doing things and learn from that and motivate them through their beliefs, not my beliefs.
Mm.
And 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 this is a very simple thing, but I think in life you have these moments and you have to capture and think about them and become a better person and become a better professional. That changed me. I started studying everything about China. I concluded that to understand China, I needed to have people Chinese. I started living, going and hanging out with Chinese because I need to learn about them. And so China was a very humble experience for me. Um, and and we won big. So that's how I cried. We won pretty big, and it was like we were losing. First year we were losing, but then we changed the game in a radical way. So I have only great memories, and also for my family. I mean, I have three daughters. We went, the three daughters, my wife, myself, to China, and everything was different. Everything. And imagine you are in a country you don't speak the language, you cannot read. So your instincts always depend on someone else to tell you what's going on. It's tough, man. It's so humbling.
Yeah.
So I think that China really changed me as a professional and as a person. I love China. I love the Chinese. But that was not the case on the first year when I was there.
That's a great lesson for life.
Yeah, it's a great, great lesson for life. And I take it everywhere with me whenever I go. So when I went to Kraft Heinz, that experience in China made me, although it was my first time as CEO, I I was very secure that I could do what I had to do. I was very, of course, very humble, but very confident that I could transform the company the way that it needed.
The confidence thing's a big thing, Miguel. If you think about businesses in today, um, and maybe just to chat a little bit about that, the importance of leaders just oozing confidence, genuinely. Um, I mean, I look around and I always, when I used to run a business, wasn't obviously not as big as Kraft Heinz. I always used to say to people when the shit was hitting the fan, they all needed to feel like I was in absolute control and confident about what was going forward. And I think that's what you did at Kraft Heinz because people were all over the place, right? I remember I said to you that in my first, when you invited me to come and work with you on there, I remember walking around and asking one, they go, oh, I'm Heinz legacy, oh, I'm Kraft legacy, and thinking to myself, your biggest job was to make everybody go, I'm Kraft Heinz legacy. Did you find when you arrived there lack of confidence in people?
I did. I mean, confidence in all levels. I mean, I remember the first engagement survey we did. The numbers were horrible, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm perhaps not sure I'm going to say about the numbers, but the magnitude was that was like 90% of the people would not register the company for a friend or a family, like
Yeah, yeah.
from a family member. And if you have that, that's a great way to see if people believe,
Yeah.
if they're confident about the business. That means 90% of people are looking for a job because so you don't stay in a place that you wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, I know.
Like when I left, that number was the opposite.
Yeah.
90% of the people would recommend the company for a friend or family member. I'm very proud of that. So that means confidence. That's a measure, a way to measure confidence.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, people had no confidence. I mean, they didn't have confidence in themselves. They didn't have confidence in the products. They didn't have confidence in the strategy. They didn't have confidence in the culture. So
But that,
to instill that, it's critical confidence.
and it is, and then actually, I think it's this is circling around to creativity again. The truth about creativity is you cannot be creative unless you have confidence.
Yeah.
You have to believe in the power of creativity. And so I've done a couple of talks recently. I'm on the talk circuit. I don't get paid, but yeah, I've said to people that creativity, everyone really admires what AB InBev have done and what they've become as this creative marketing powerhouse, which of course you began back 2015. Where uh, everybody, in fact, I told this to the AB InBev people the other day. I said, because no, sorry, I told this to the Kraft Heinz people the other day. I said I was at a Michelob meeting with the execs of ABI. And at the end of the meeting, one of the execs turned around to me and said to me, Matthew, what's the secret behind the magic of Kraft Heinz and the work that you guys are doing? And it was just incredible, to me that, people, I said, look, here's the secret: leadership. Because people like me, as a creative guy, unless I've got the support of the CEO and the global CMO, I'm dead in the water. Right? So I think that's what you've done unbelievably well in your career.
I mean, Matthew, you need to tell. So I'll tell it. Remember, bringing two stories about Kraft Heinz at the beginning. It was very bad, right? Communication. It's still not where we want to know, right? It's not that again. Be humble. It's has a long way to go, but it's a big improvement. And uh, and the first thing we did, you and myself, we said we have to reward creativity because if we don't reward creativity, people will have no incentives to be creative. So we created Creative Ace Awards. Who had a BBIA created X. And who were the
Way before Elon Musk had X, by the way.
yes, way before the X? I think we should have yes, register that as. Mm. And so why is that important? Because people say, well, it's good to be. You go on stage, you receive a prize, you go to Cannes. If you go there, is like you are applauded with by everyone. This is important if I want to progress in my doing, right?
Yeah.
And so we did the same at Kraft Heinz, the Ace Awards. But not only that, I who were the MCs? The CEO, myself,
Yeah.
and you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Brilliant, Bobby.
for the first 3 years. That's why was that?
Yeah.
To tell the entire company is important that this was important. It was a priority. Because if I was the MC for the creative hours of marketing, this is how important it was. But we don't only did that. I sent an email to the entire company to watch the awards.
That's right.
And there is another thing. After the awards, the first year, 70% of the awards went to Canada.
Yeah.
But 70% of the business is US. So US got like 5% of the awards.
Yeah.
So what I did, I sent an email to the entire company congratulating the Canadian team for the 70. Also, there was a gnashing of teeth there. I didn't say a word about US, right? But that was a way you know, uh, to provoke them, to inspire them to learn from Canadians. What are they doing so well? I didn't have to say that, but it was very clear to the entire company. And so Pedro called me, after the last Ace Awards, he called me. Pedro is the president for US. Said, Beyond call you to say that we got 80%, otherwise this have the US. They're good. Congratulations. They should send another email saying that. That's good.
And the thing about it is, and we started the conversation saying how difficult it is to I guess to be creative and to believe in creativity. What a lot of people don't realize in business, in my opinion, is the magic dust of creativity and what it does to everybody. So whether you're working in one of the factories, if you see a piece of work, or if your daughter comes running in and shows you a great Heinz TikTok video or whatever, all these things make people feel like they're winners.
Yes.
Creativity is this thing that is an infectious, beautiful, magical thing. And I guess my fear about just business in general now is it's easy not to do. It's easy just to maintain. It's easy just to manage numbers and stuff like that. I mean, is it possible to convince people, that that's the way of losing versus winning?
Well, someone said, I don't know who said, it was not me, but I love the saying that the biggest risk is not taking risks. Yeah. And it is. So that's why it's so important rewarding creativity. Um, and like this example of the email, and make it very clear that the winners were Canada. That is 8% of our business, but they are 70% of the recognition. And so that is because that will, inspire people to, to be more creative. But if you don't do that, why are we going to do? I mean, if there's only risk and no reward,
Yeah, it's got to be reward. Yeah.
why do I do that? And again, we are here talking today with communication in mind, but creativity is much more than communication or marketing. Creativity is just what you described, is that energy, that thing that can energize a whole company.
Yeah.
And I think what I didn't do at Kraft Heinz that I wanted to do was to transform the ACE Awards into a company awards.
Yeah.
We did a little bit, we increased a little bit, but the scope, but we need that in
That's a sure.
supply, in sales, in
Yeah.
again, we don't want in safety, we don't want accounting, we don't want equality. But everywhere else, you can do better in a different way. And if you have this mind sticking on how we're going to improve, this is infectious, as you said. It's not just infectious. And it's cool. I mean, it's so awesome to be creative. The feeling that you have to find a solution in a different way for a problem. I mean, and this is awesome instead of doing always the same stuff.
Okay, so I'm going to take that as a challenge, and I'm going to institute some changes in ACE
Do that.
and put some other little things inside of it,
Yes.
like a total company creativity award.
Yes.
I'll have to talk to Carlos.
Make that a Carlos project.
I'll make it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's end. Bull and Field has been brilliant. See, I mean, I've known you for 100 years, and I've learned something new again. It's always lovely. So, when you went to Kraft Heinz, you said 3 years. I said you do 5 years. What did you do? 4.5?
5 years.
5 years. Okay, 5 years. But I think that you have so much more to offer, right? I do worry sometimes about things, because I remember what you said to me once, Matthew, I love stress. And I said to you, well, okay, I get it, but stress is a dangerous thing as much as anything. I think what you were saying was you loved the energy, the competition stuff. What do you plan to do next? What's the next thing you really want to do?
So maybe I was wrong saying I love stress. What I love, were situations that can be very stressful situations, but that energizes me. So a problem energizes me.
Yeah.
Um, I think I work better when there's something big that we have to solve, or a problem. So that's what energizes me.
Yeah.
Um, but the consequence of that, and probably the bad, if you don't pay attention, is the stress, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you are a CEO, you are connected 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's like it's awesome, the adrenaline, but it's stressful. So I thought that at this moment of my life, I still had incredible years ahead of me, but I didn't have time. I just didn't have time, and so I decided that I need time,
Yeah.
right? And the first thing I did when I when I stopped being CEO, I don't like the word retired because I didn't retire. Talk about this in a second. Was to make a list of the 100 people in my life that were more important in my life. And because I lived in China, Belgium, Canada, Portugal, Brazil, the passport, etc., you lose contact with because it's just you don't have time. And so I'm connecting with each one of them,
That's great.
each one, and I'm reconnecting with them. This is giving me, I mean, an incredible inspection.
Yeah.
So this was the first thing I did. I'm still doing it, but I made that the priority in my life. I'm chairman of the board of two companies, one of them being Kraft Heinz. Yeah. This keeps me entertained
Yeah.
and active. And I like that a lot. I'm mentoring 6 people, a lot of time as well.
It's great.
And 3 professionals, senior professionals. but also 3 young adults
Lovely.
that struggle a lot and, getting out of university and starting working. And so
I think you need to see my son.
I already, I already told you that a couple of times. So this is a mentoring part that I'm really, they think I'm helping them. They help me immensely. So as a way to learn from the youth
That's great.
and things that very hard for parents to do with their own kids.
Yeah.
But if you are not the parent, you can, your stories, your experience, your life can inspire a lot of people. And I think that the young generation needs a lot of inspiration. I'm trying to get connected with Nova Business School in Portugal. So I want to give back to my country where I was born. Uh, I built a house there and I'm spending part of.
By the way, everybody, when you see this house, unbelievable. No, but that is what I love about it is the living embodiment of your belief in beauty and creativity,
Yes,
right?
beautiful place.
And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great investment as well.
Yeah,
Your children ever choose to sell it one day, they're going to do well out of it.
they will. And it's I'm trying to give back Portugal. I'm trying to find the way to give back to Portugal, to reconnect with Portugal. And one of the ways is be active with working with the local business university that I think is incredible, Nova. Um, and I don't know exactly if I'm going to be a professor there, if or a course, but we are developing something like that.
That'll be great.
And I'm open for business and for idea.
Just no stress.
No, with stress, but I like the stress. I don't like the consequence of the stress, but I love problems and transformation and change and that's I think is incredible. I think is this
You've
what
got
moves you.
this. You've got a good lesson for all the leaders in the world, particularly the leaders of the world today. I'm a great believer in positive conflict, right? Conflict to make something better. And I think about the effect you've had on people in your career, and you are the living embodiment of positivity. Okay, but you never shy away from conflict. Always would try and make something better. I mean, what message have you got for people, particularly in the US at the moment, but all around the world? Because people are really, other than the people that voted for Donald Trump, as an example, or people like, and in fairness to them, you can maybe people weren't listening hard enough to them. But what message have you got to people about it? Is there hope? It just feels like there's this dark cloud hovering over the world at the moment. I mean, how do you
I think there is a dark cloud and I'm very concerned as well. I mean, when you look at what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on um in Ukraine and Russia, what's going on in Taiwan, what's going on in North Korea. I mean, it was very. I mean, we had many years of peace in the world, and now we are living with this thing. But also that values are in a way being challenged. Things that I think that we had evolved so much, and in a way we are going backwards in some vital things and questions. And so I'm concerned about that. But again, what I try to do is to use this negative uh, this negative perspective to energize me to the moves and to help people, find solutions. And I'll give an example. I mean, very simple. I mean, I was last week in Boston with one of my daughters and had a dinner. I cooked for all her friends at home. I love cooking, and I was talking to them, and they're finishing college, and I felt this negativity about the world
anxiety?
and
Yeah,
this anxiety, and there was one specifically that is gay, and he's struggling a lot at this moment, and like he wants to go to the corporate world, but he's scared. I mean, because something that was evolving immensely somehow now he feels he's being bullied and like he had progressed in that area. Now he's going backwards. And so, um, I automatically I left the place. I think about him every day and then I'm trying to connect him with people, in companies and people that do not represent that. So he can see that there are always two sides of a coin, and the world is not like that. And so let's let's be concerned, but let's not believe that everything is bad. Let's find the good and the good people and the good companies and the good things, and let's learn from them, and let's synergize ourselves to act right. Instead of getting depressed. Getting depressed doesn't solve anything. Worry, it's a reality. I mean, I'm not saying I've had my down moments in my life. I don't take me wrong. I mean, nobody's Superman or Superwoman, but we have to get out of that. We have to get out of that hole. Right?
Yeah. And then creativity is the best way of doing it.
It is, yes, sir. Creativity is, yes, sir.
Miguel, thank you. That was really great. First ever Bull in Field. It was wonderful. I've known you for a long time. We've had some times together. Mostly good, right? Mostly good. Made some wonderful things together, and it's been a privilege to chat to you. And it's always a privilege to be with you.
Do I have 1 minute just to
Yes.
I need to talk about you. I mean, like, I think that I did define the right people. This is not a one job. This is not a one person job. So you have to find the people in your company that are gonna make transformation, um, that are gonna be inspired, that are going to be fighting, that have the DNA, but also find partners outside of your company that work with your company, being agencies or people that can help you in that sense. I think you were absolutely instrumental. I don't think I know in this process at Kraft Heinz, and why? Because I asked this to the people at Kraft Heinz, and what they say is that they feel safe with you because you are candid, but you are not from the company, so you are not judging them work wise. So it's a safe space for them to be telling you everything they think, and you're telling them what they think. And the same with the agencies, right? And so having this liaison as being incredibly powerful. And I don't think that today Kraft Heinz and AB InBev would be in that place without you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to send that to all. Like, no, look,
I you know what? I only said what I think. But I wouldn't say that. Hey, wait, didn't think you know that.
no, no, thank you. It's great. Look, and because it's been a joy for me, I think that I feel like a grandfather. You know, the grandfather you can run to the grandfather and tell them things that you can't necessarily tell your parents, and that's kind of what you're doing now, right? You're like the grandfather again.
Yeah. I mean, my conversations with people is all about stories. Not perfect. This verificas técnico uma story. Let me give you, I have 1,000 stories to tell. It's this, my grandfather.
Okay, thanks, Miguel. It was amazing. Okay. There you go, everyone.